Okay, so the first thing we are going to do today is discuss something very important, which has to do with adding an icon to an app. If I have an app and I would like to add an icon to it, that is the thing someone will see to click on the app, to tap the app. If I want to add something like that, how will I do it? Under normal circumstances, I require a screen. I require I would use either Photoshop or CorelDRAW or any single editor in which you find comfortable using. Now, in this editor, I'll make sure that the dimensions of my icon are 500 pixels by 500 pixels. Now, internally, I'll have another square in here, which is 300 pixels by 300 pixels. Now, what this will do is that whatever imagery I want to put here, if I want to put a logo or something, I'll put the logo in this section alone. This white section in which I have over here, I would not put anything there. That is when I say the white section, I'm talking about this section here, over here, this section. Okay? That will be left free. So that when the logo is placed into my app, it will just show my icon in the middle, and then around it will be the white space that is untouched so that my icon can pop up very nicely. So that is number one. Now, once I have my icon, how will I put my icon onto my Android application? How will I load it so that whenever someone is opening my app, they would see my Android application? Number one, I would have to put the image inside the Android studio. That's number one. Number two, I would have to, number two, I would have to um, tell the manifest the logo to use in developing my app. So that is what I would have to do. Okay, so I have to number one, tell Android Studio which application I'm going to be using. And then number two, I would have to tell it which logo to use. So let me start my app. So here I have my app open. I'm going to start my app. I'll go to this section here. I'll go to File. I'll go to New. I'll go to New Project. So in here, I'm in the New Project. I'll click on Empty Views Activity, and I'll click on Next. Over here, I'll select everything in which I want. In here, I'm going to call this application BMI App, and I'm going to click on Finish. And once I've done that, this application is going to load. It's going to run down here. You can see it running down here. It's going to make sure all my dependencies are there. It's going to make sure that all my griddles are open and everything in which I need for my project to run is running. You can see it running at the bottom here. And when it is done, then I'll start writing my code. Now, as it is running, let's deal with some things which have to do with us writing our code. Are we okay? So what are we going to do with in terms of us writing our code? We need to do the design of our code, how our code is going to look like. I'm going to calculate the BMI of individuals. I need to know their height. I need to know their weight. So there are some pieces of information which is important for us to do. which is important for us to do. One second. Okay, so over here we have our canvas, which looks like this. In our canvas, which looks like this, we need to have a place where someone can type in their weight, their height. We need to have a place where someone can put in a button to calculate BMI or BMI. Let me say just say get BMI. And then let's move this one to the side. I think, let me do this rather. So get BMI, good. And then over here, I need a text area for the person to see his score. And then I need another text area for the person to see their, what do I even call this? Their status, yes. Let me call it status. So another place for someone to see their status. Okay, so over here is a rough sketch of my design. This is a rough sketch of how my application is going to look like, how my application is going to feel. Okay,
we can.
sorry. So I'm going to have to check in my status. So this is the designing which I want. This is how I want the app to look. By now, over here, everything has loaded. We can see that everything which has loaded here has the following things. I have my app. When I open it, I have my 3 folders. I have my manifest, my Java, and my resource folder. Everything has loaded nicely. When I come here, I can see that everything here is also loaded. All my dependencies are loaded and it looks good. If anything here is wrong, it means that, of course, in my SDK manager, there is something in the SDK manager, be it the tools or be it the SDKs, which is wrong. There is something wrong over here. So I should go and check it. But for me, everything is okay. Everything looks good over here. So I can start writing my code. And it's me starting to write my code. First thing, I need to apply my logo. How will I apply my logo? I would go and click the manifest. I'll go and click resource, sorry. I'll go and click on map, and then I'll right click it to open up, and then go to new, and then I'll go to new image asset. So remember, right click new image asset. I'll click on the new image asset. I'll open the folder on my computer. And then in this folder, I'll go and look for where I have my logo. In my case, my logo should be somewhere here. I have this ad over here, in which I'm using as my logo. You can design anything in which you want. But I just want to use this ad. I've used it a lot this week, but I want to use this ad. Now, I will copy the direction of the ad. So the ad can be found in music. So if I come in here, the first thing I have to do is give my icon a name. I'll call it IC for icon, and I'll call it logo. Very simple. Now, in here, I have to tell the computer the pathway to this logo. I'll click here, it opens up, and you can see that the path is over here. I can go in here and then search for it. So I can just come down and go to users, go here and go and look for music. And then over here, I'll come and look for logo. Or I could have just posted this here so that it just takes me there directly. Then I'll click on the logo. I'll press OK. And you can see that my logo has come in here. You can see that because my thing is in 300, you see that the 300 is what shows here. The 500 doesn't show the rest of the things. Can you see that? Uh-huh. That's why we put it in the 300, so that the 300 shows the icon very well. You can portray the icon very well to whoever you want to portray the icon to. When you're done, over here, you can size it if it is not the sizing which you are looking for. You can size it. And when you are done, you can click on next. Very important thing for us to realize is that when you are dealing with Android, what they do is they create copies of your image. And they create copies of your image in the various file formats. So these file formats, you would have the smallest resolution to the highest resolution, depending on the individual's phone. So whatever phone you are using, the grade of the phone will determine which picture you should pick. So the pictures are already downloaded. You can see that over here, we have different file formats of the picture. So you don't have to do that. It will do that. And when you click on finish, it will create copies of your image. But what we have done, we have not put the icon there. We have just loaded the icon onto the Android Studio files. So remember, we had two steps to go through. We said step one, we would put the image in the Android Studio. Now we have to go to Manifest and tell it which image to use. So on the side here, I'll open the Manifest folder. And then inside the Manifest file, I'll tell the computer that Android underscore icon should be icon what? Logo. Over here too, you can see that we have the local launcher, which is round, right? We want this one to be what? Logo round. Good. So that when someone is using a phone and the phone has icons which are round, this is what we'll pick. When someone is using a phone which the icons are square, then it will pick the other one. Everything you do is controlled by you. That means that you need to put in the controls. Now, when I run my app, by clicking here, you can see that my app runs the griddle at the bottom here again, and then loads it on the side here again. Now, once it loads on the side here, we can see it loading the app. When it is done, it will run the app onto my emulator. One second, let it load. So now it has finished loading. And now it will launch onto my device, okay? So now it is installing onto the device. And then when it is done installing on the device, it will launch itself up, okay? So it will launch itself up, then I'll have the app running. So you can see the icon I did is over here. And then you can see it will launch the app for me when it is done. And of course, I have nothing there. So I'm now coming to design. It shows a white page, and this is what you should show. When I go back here, I go back, let me go home. You can see that I have my app over here, but I can just scroll to the top. So I can just scroll to the top. Scroll to the top, good. Or what am I doing? No, I don't want calendar, go back to the home. Nowadays, I use the controls on the phone a lot, so I forget that I'm not using controls. Is this the menu button? Oh no, this is the task, this thing. Isn't it us just moving the cursor from the bottom to the top? Oh no, that's it. I want the menu. I know that this is, let me see. I want to see the name of the app so that we'll see that it is there. But when we tap this, it should open the blank canvas for us. So this is our app, right? This is what we are doing here. So there is nothing there. And as you can see, that the app in which we have the icon has been placed there. Remember, if you want to put the icon there, we would right click here, go to new, go to image asset, put the image there, then we'll go to manifest, and then just change the name of the app icon and the round icon. That's how we'll do it there. Now, if I want to develop an app for BMI, how will I develop the app for BMI? First thing, I'll have to go into the palette. And then in the palette, I'll have to design the interface in which we saw. So in the interface I saw, I can click here and then drag it here. Okay, so now I have a text view. Now the text view allows me to put text onto my screen. Okay, so now I'll group a text view over there. And then in this text view, I will constrain it. Constrain it means that I would drag and drop it on the top half of my screen. You can see this. This would force the element to remain in a position in which I put it. You can see that the things around it look like a spring. So they would be forced to be there. It's like when you're a car that has good shock absorbers, the car doesn't even move, something like that. Now over here, I'll collapse this for now, and then I'll open attributes. And then in here, I'm going to change some few things. What am I going to change? First thing I'm going to change is that I want my app to have a bigger text over here. Okay, so let me use this for the welcome. So let me put it in the middle. And over here, I'm going to change the text property. The text property controls the display, how the thing looks like. So in here, I'm going to say that the text property for this should be welcome. Very nice. Now, over here, I want to make it a bit bigger. So I'll go and look for text size. And I'm going to say my text size should be 32 dp, or it should be 32 sp. Good. Now, over here, of course, everything is not showing because it's a bit bigger now. So I'll just make it bigger. Perfect. And then I'll look for the text style. Okay, and the text style, I want to make it bold. I want to make it bold. Good. So now it looks like this. Now I'll go for the text view again. I'll put it here. Again, I'll look for the text property. And the text property, I'm going to call it height, weight. Okay. And then I'll look for the text size, and then I'll give it the text size of 20 SP. Good. And then I'll look for the text, and then I'll make it bold, and I'll say apply. Good. Now remember, I will have to constrain it. So over here, I'll click here, bring it to the down, click here, bring it to the top, click here, bring it to the side, click here, bring it to the side, click here, bring it to the side again. And then over here, I'll just make sure it is over here like this. Now I'll click this, copy it, paste it, and then come and put it here. So now I have two, but I'll just change the text property of this one to height. Good. And then over here, I'll click this one, copy it, paste it again so that I have another one. And then this one, I'll put it over here so that I can call this one score. But this one, I would use it in my code. So over here, I'll just go and give it an ID property. So I have an ID property at the top here. And the ID property, I'll give it a name called text score. Okay. Now, the ID property is very important. The ID property is what we would use in the system. When a system wants to call on this one, it will call it using the ID property. Okay, so it means that the ID property is seen as a variable. It is seen as a variable. So I must treat it like a variable. Very important. Mm, good. Now, over here again, let me make this thing a bit, fix the box. I'll copy this, paste it again, so that I have another one. And then this one, oh, I didn't copy it. So let me press Control C, Control V, and then it is copied. And then this one, I'm going to call it TXT status. Good. And then I'm going to change the text property of it. So text to status. Good. Now for this, let me add a question mark here so that it looks like we are asking a question. Good. So now I've done all my texts. Now the next thing I'll move on into is the inputs. So over here, because the weight and height are decimals, I will choose the decimal property here, which is named decimal. So when I click and drag and drop it here, I will have dropped in the decimal property. I can drag it to the bottom, I can drag it to the top, I can drag it to the side, I can even drag it onto this side here, and I can bring it over here. I can make it a bit larger and longer so that someone can have enough room to type what they have to type. And then I can copy and paste it, and then I'll have another one here so that they'll all have the same dimensions. When I click on this, in here, I'll call it ED, that is edit text, or edit ET, and then in here, I'll call it ET weight. Because remember, the ID property is used to give the system name of the thing. And then in here, I'll call it ET height. Perfect. So now I have the height here too. Of course, everything would be done by clicking a button. So here I can just put a nice button here. Over here, let me put these two things a bit down, so that here we can make the button a bit bigger. And then the button, we are going to give it a name, BTN BMI. Good. So that is the name of the button, BTN BMI. And then the text property, remember, anything that has to do with appearance would come inside the text property. So the text property for this is going to be so I'll look for text. I can just search for it here. So text, and then it pops up here. And here we'll put the get BMI. BMI. Wonderful. So I have this. So this is the view in which I have. When I run this app again, wait, So this is a good example to teach. So you can see that the button, I didn't constrain it. So when I come over here and I check my app again, it is running in the griddle. And when it is left running in the griddle, we can see that, look at where the button has gone to. Because I didn't constrain it, it didn't maintain its position at where it should be maintained. So over here, I'll go and then maintain it where I should be maintained. Note that this is not the only way we can do display. We can also use relative layouts. We can also use linear layouts. There are other forms of what? Display. You can see there are layouts here. We have the constraint layout, the linear layout, the frame layout, the table layout. There are lots of layouts which are there. We'll try and do a few more before the class comes to an end. When I run this code again, we can see that because I've constrained it and I've put it in a particular position, when the app runs again, we would see that the app has put the button in the correct position that it should be in. So you can see that it is well constrained over here. It is well constrained over here. Mhm. So this is my application. This is how I want my app to look like. Are we okay? This is the design in which I have for it. Are there any questions, please? Are there any questions, please?
No, sir.
If there are no questions, then let's add one more thing. Everything we do, we must make it have a certain look. So I'm going to have a gradient view at the back. So I'm going to add a gradient to the back, a nice background image to the back, so that it gives it a particular feel when someone looks at it. So over here, I'll come in here in the drawables, and then I would double tap here again to right click, and then I'll go to new, and then I'll go to drawable resource. So I'll go to new and go to drawable resource. Now in here, I'll create a drawable resource. I have to give it a name, so I'll call it background underscore gradient dot XML. And then in here, I would create my shape, or we are going to create a shape. So let's give the root name a shape. And when we press OK, we'll see that we'll have a background gradient here, and we have the shape we want over here. Thank you. Now, I'll go to the code view because I want to write some code. Now, in here, I'll let Android know that what I'm about to do is a shape. So I'll just add Android shape over here and tell it the shape I want is a rectangle, so that the computer will know that I am doing a rectangle. In here, I'm going to add a gradient. So over here, I have gradient. And then I'm going to tell Android some stuff. So I'm going to say Android, semicolon, start color. So this will tell me the color I want to use to start my gradient. Over here, I don't have the color in mind now, so I'll just do FFF, which is, of course, white, so that the computer knows that the first color I want to do is what? White. So FFF. And then over here too, I'll tell the computer Android end color, and then end color is also going to be white for now. And then I'm going to tell Android the angle in which I want the thing to go through. For now, let me do 90 degrees, and then I can close my code. So over here, I have my colors. For now, let me see. Let me do A5, FA, F6. And then over here, let me do 2, 4, B7, CA. So for this kind of blue, good. So I have this as my color. Now looking at this, if I do it with red, let me do reddish. So then I click here. Let me go for a reddish color, but let me go for a nice faded red. And then over here at the bottom, I'll do a deepish red, okay? Because health matters. So let's do red so that we know that health is very, very important. Good. So we have this one here. Now, when I save this app, so when I come back here, I'll see that this is the shade in which I have gone to. So now let me go into my application again, my design, right? I'll click on the background here. I'll click on the background here. And when I click on the background, I have the opportunity to go and click on the code side and just write the code here quickly. Or I can click it here, and then it means that I've clicked on the canvas. See the white space, that's what I'm clicking. And then I'll go back to the attribute. And in the attribute, I'll look for background. Good. So I'm looking for the background tint of it. Now, what do I want to do with the background tint? Or let me do the background instead. So background. I'll tell the computer where to go and find the background. So he will have to go to at. So that the moment I brought the art, it shows me different locations in which I want to add. If I want to add an image, I can add it from here and so on and so forth. But I don't want to add an image. What I want to add is my background gradient. Good. So that is what I want to add. Oh, let me add it again. So, or let me just type the code. The background gradient here. Good. Uh-huh. So let me just type it as code. So over here, I can just come in here and just say Android. Go and look for, sorry, go and look for the background and then give the background drawable gradient. Yeah, perfect. So now when I come back to here, I can see I have this shade of gradient, but is black and this color doesn't go together. So I can just go and look for text color. So text color. And here the color I would choose is white. So that is chosen for me over here. Over here I can choose white. Oh, sorry. So text. Let me click here. Perfect. Text, color. And then the color I want to go for is white. So that's what I've chosen. I'll copy this one. And then I'll click on this one. I'll see the text color should be white. I'll click on this one. I'll say the text color should be white. I'll click on this one. I'll say the text color should be white. And then I'll click on this one and say the text color should also be what? White. Like this. Good. So now I have this. So if I run my app again, of course, it will give me white as those colors. So that, and then of course, I think in here when I start typing, it will show as black. So I have to go and make the text colors for this to white, and then I'll make the text color for this also white. Perfect. So as I said, if I type in here, it is going to be which is not very ideal for the person to view. So if I run this again, overview, just rerun, I've changed them into white. So now when someone goes to type in there, it is going to show white so that the whole screen looks whitish. Then the person can see visibly and all of that. So you can see that all I'm trying to do is give you various ideas on what to do, how to put your things together, how to put your things to type. Also, the writings here are very, very small. So you can see that. So it means that in here, I can go and look for the text size again. And then here, I'll change it to, let's say, 20 SP. So that whenever someone is typing, they would see it a bit what bigger. So control is very, very important. The way the thing will look like, how the thing will behave, you control everything. Now, I am done with the design. Of course, the designing which we started out that we want to do, we said we wanted to do this, right? I've been able to achieve that. So this is what I have achieved over here. Now, I must write the code behind for it to work, for it to do what we sent it to do. So now my focus is going to turn into the Java code of making this application work like how I want it to work. How will I write the Java code for it to do what I want to do? I'll go to the side here. I'll click on the Java file. I'll click the first one and click the main.java because the main.java goes with the activity main. Every single thing you create, there would be the activity main layout and the main. They go together. So in here, I'm in my main.java file. So all my code will be written in here. Let me start writing my code. First thing I'll do is I'll let the computer know that on my screen, I have an edit text. Now, this edit text in which I have, I'm going to give it the name of weight, of V weight. Now, here is where the understanding needs to come true. Your code here is written in a particular programming language called XML. We can see it here. Your code over here for the actions are written in Java. There is no mixture there. So the first thing I have to do is tell the code that this coding which I have in XML, this code I've written here in XML, this is its corresponding code in Java. Hey, this coding which I've written in Java, sorry, this is its corresponding code in XML. Therefore, whenever you see this code here, which is an edit text in Java, refer to it as, so go and find by view ID. So here you're telling the computer, go and find something. What should it go and find? Where should it find it? You can see that again, this thing is found in the resource folder. So in here, I'm going to say capital R dot. So you're telling the computer to go into the resource folder. When it goes into the resource folder, what is it going to look for? It's going to look for an ID. Then I bring another dot. You can see that when I bring the next dot, it brings me all the IDs that I can find inside the resource folder. The ID in which I'm looking for is called ed what? Dot ed et wait. So I'm done with this one. I'll have edit text again. I'm going to call it v height. The v height is the name I'm giving it. I'm splitting it for value height. In the resource.id.et what? Height. I close it off. In there again, we have two display items, which are text views. So in here, I'll say text view. And then in here, I'm going to give the text view a name, which is display score, which is equal to find view by ID in the resource folder.id.txt, and we call it what? Score. I have another text view, and I'm going to call it display status, which is equal to r.id.txt status. Then finally, I have a button. And then in my button, I am going to call the button BTN answer. And this should be equal to find by view ID resource.id dot, and then in here, I'm called it BTN BMI. You can see that the button is underlined. It is underlined because every time I created these things, you can see that it tells me that it is a text widget. So you can see that I have the widgets over here. The widget for the button is not created. So all I'll do is press alternate and press enter and tell the computer to import the widget. It will import it at the top here. So you can see that import widget.button. So now I have the button code added to this screen for me. So now, when will this code be calculated? When I enter a weight here and a height here, when will it be calculated? It will be calculated when I click on the Get BMI button. So I'll tell the computer to go and take the button. The button, I said that whenever you see the button, it is called BTN BMI. But in the Java, I'm calling it BTN what? Answer. And I've binded them together. So it means that every time I type BTN answer, technically I am typing BTN BMI. So I'm going to say BTN answer dot get on click listener. And I'm going to type new.v here. And you can see that when I do that, something pops up over here, view.onClickListener. I'll just click on that, and the computer finishes up the code for me. That means that anything in which I'll type in this section here, so type in here, it means that that is what the computer is going to execute. Those are the codes the computer is going to do. That is the actions the computer is going to perform. When I click on the button, what do I want the computer to do? I want the computer to go and take the value for the buttons in which I have done. I want the computer to go in for them. So first of all, I need to go and collect the information that the computer has done. So I'll say string because what the person is typing is in a string. So string strw. So let me say wstr. So weight string is equal to vweight dot get text. So this code will go and get the information in the text property because remember, the text property controls the display. So if you type something inside the text box, you are technically typing it inside the text property. So I'm telling the computer, go and get me the text property. When you get me the text property, go and change the text property and make sure it is a what? A string. So over here, I'll just add dot to string so that the computer knows what to do. I'll create a string again, and I'll have HSTR, which should be equal to HVH dot get text dot to what? String. Now, I'm going to tell the computer something very important again. I'm going to tell the computer that if vstring, WSTR dot is empty, dot is empty, and at the same time, HSTR dot is empty, then we have a problem because the person has not entered anything into any of the boxes. So now we have to tell the person a particular message. So over here, I would say display score dot set text. And then in here, I'll put please enter values in both places. And then I'll hit return here so that my code can stop. Now, if this is not the case, this place will be skipped. So it means the person has entered things in both places so that when it comes here, I'll just say try. What am I trying? I'm going to say double weight is equal to double dot pass double into bracket WSTR. So I am converting the string in which I got here into a double. I'm also going to convert the height into a what? Double. So now they are doubles. They are no more strings. So I can use them for calculation. How do we calculate the BMI? What is the formula for calculation of a BMI? What formula is used to calculate BMI? It is your weight over your height times your height. So in here, I can now say double BMI is equal to weight over into brackets height times what? Height. Okay, now I know the BMI. But BMI goes further than this. So now that I know what the BMI is, I can just tell the person that display score dot set text. And then in here, I would tell the person his or her score. So in here, I'll just say string dot format into bracket score is, then I'll put percentage dot 2F here so that I have 2 decimal places. Then over here, I just bring a comma here and say BMI. Or here, let me say your BMI score is, so that it looks more presentable. Now, of course, with BMI, we have to say if the person's, what do we call that thing, right? The BMI, if the person is this and then is overweight. So let me see, what's the BMI calculator? Body mass index. Let me just check um, the statuses so that we are safe. Okay, so with the BMI, we are saying that if a person has a BMI score of less than 18.5, then that person is said to be underweight. So over here, we would say display status. Okay, so display status dot set text. And then in here, I would say in double quotes again. Okay, here I don't have to put any double quotes here because I don't have to put in any value here because I'll just say under what? Weight. Perfect. Else, if the person is above this or equal to it, and at the same time, the person's BMI is less than 24.9, then that person is said to be healthy. Other than that, if that person has a BMI of 25 and above, and at the same time he is less than 29.9, then that person is said to be overweight. Other than that, that person is said to be, so else, that person is said to be obese. Now, I am trying this, which means that if there is anything wrong with my code, anything wrong with it, the program should not crash, but it should catch whatever problem in which I have. And it should catch it and keep it in a number format exception. Because normally, because I'm dealing with numbers, I'll normally have number errors. And when it catches it in the number expression, sorry, I'm still in the try catch, right? So 1 second, let me make sure my brackets are all correct because it seems I have some brackets missing somewhere. Let me see. Yeah, so this bracket belongs to you. Perfect. And over here, I'll just add my catch. Good. Then I'll have my close bracket over here. Perfect. So that in here, I'll just say number what? Format exception E. And in here, if I have a number format exception, then we want to display score, set text, And then we want to put in, please enter a valid number. Because we have a number exception error. So we tell the person to enter a valid number. Perfect. Now this bracket goes with view, whatever here. Good. Good. So that bracket goes with that. Perfect. They said I have an error in my code, which is unusual of me. Oh, yes. So there's an equal to sign here, which should not be there. So this is my code. So let's see if it runs. I'll run it again. It will run inside my editor. Okay. And if there's nothing wrong, it would run. It's launching on my device. It has launched on my device. No errors. And then boom, the application pops up. Then in here, I can say 24 weight, height. Let's say I can give it a certain height. I won't give a weight and I'll press. And it says, please. Okay, so it says please, and it's coming to tell me the rest, but the square I made is not big enough. So I can come back in here, go to the layout design, and in here, I can make this thing a bit, I'll bring it here and make it a bit longer. And a bit wider so that it can take in more information. I'll bring this one also here and I'll make it a bit wider so that it can take more information. Perfect. So I'll rerun this again. So I made them a bit wider. Bring it to the middle a bit, but that's fine. That's fine. So it runs. My things are not in line, but I just want you to see what I would see. Very well. And then in here, I'll put in a value here. Let's see, this. Let's see, 120. And you have a height, by the height, let me wait. When I press, please enter both values. You see, so it shows me what I want to see. Perfect. Over here, let's say my height is, let's say, 30. And then I click on get BMI. Tells me my BMI I'm underweight. So you see, it works, right? So over here, let me say I am 6'5". Okay, 6'5". So when I click on it, it tells me my BMI score is this and I'm underweight. So things like that. Or let's say over here, my 300, and I click, it tells me I'm that, and then so it shows you what you are, you're underweight, and then it works over here. Of course, I have to make a more layouts, make things a bit bigger, but basically, this is a full app in which I've built in its basic form. It's very important that you find time to repeat the code in which we have on the screen. I will send you guys the Java code and I'll send you guys the XML code so that you can practice with them in your own free time. Are there any questions? If there are not, then we will bring our lecture to an end